All right, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakak Wadash. The double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS, who as well. Peace and citation to the elect. My name is Ainal. The title of this video is Trump Rewrites Constitution to Make Fascism Official. Right? So, we'll get into it. Let's get into what fascism is. So I typed in fascism on Google. It says fascism is a far-right political ideology characterized by authoritarianism, Slakia. It says ultra-nationalism and militarism, right? It says it often involves a strong cult of a personality around a leader, right? And we understand what this is going to and why Trump is trying to do that, right? So I get the scriptures as I read and go along with these different things here. So we got Isaiah 19 because we're witnessing the end, right? And it's a beautiful thing to witness. I grabbed this. I believe is Second Ezra 6 and 9 because Trump is doing a beautiful job to bring in the end. All right, so this is Second Ezra chapter 6 and verse 7. It says, "Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the hill of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth," right? And right now, the current rulership of the world is in the hand of Esau, the Edomites, right? The so-called white man. And he's doing a great job at fulfilling the scripture by bringing the end of the world. Because what they're trying to do, with this, rewriting the Constitution and all these different other decrees, that they're prescribing is trying to bring about a new world order, right? Their new world order, where they're the top and everyone else is the bottom, right? Getting rid of middle class and having only a lower class and upper class, right? So that's what they want. So let me go back into this. Fascism is a far right. I didn't get Isaiah 19, Slaki. Right. So they're doing a great job. And Donald Trump is the president right now, and he's doing a great job at doing this. Let me grab this NLT. All right, I'll start at 1, Isaiah 19 and 1. It says, this message, Slakia, it says, this message came to me concerning Egypt. Look, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is advancing against Egypt, right? And this is talking about America. It says, riding on a swift cloud. The swift cloud will be a chariot, right? Spaceship. It says, the idols of Egypt tremble. The hearts of the Egyptian melt with fear. It says, I will make Egyptian fight against Egyptian. And that's, what's taking place here in Babylon the Great now in these last days, right? That's why you see sedition among men and basically what Trump is calling or what they're talking about is like civil war, right? They're saying Trump wants civil war, but civil war will come because Job 20, which was another scripture. I didn't even get the video, but it was another scripture I wanted to get, concerning the fact that, every hand of the wicked, which is a laborer, will come upon Esau Edom when he's about to fill his belly, right? And that's exactly what's happening now. So I'll start at 19. This is Job 20 and 19. It says, because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not, surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. It says, there shall none of his meat be left, therefore shall no man look for his goods. It says, in the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. So this is talking about Esau Edom finally achieving his goal, right? And reaching the height that he wants to reach in his new world order, which will be total control. right? And as we see him, bring out these different legislations, legislations. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Regarding the different policies that he's pushing forth, people are bucking up against it, right? And that's why it says in verse 22, every hand the wicked shall come upon him. Now, this word wicked here, Imel, right? It says laborer, sufferer, workman, right? So basically, the working class, the people that they're trying to get rid of, basically, because you do have a lower class and a middle class, and if it was up to Esau, he will wipe out all classes, lower and middle, eventually, because the scriptures say that he's not satisfied, with death. Basically, he will continue it. The scriptures also say, unless those days be shortened, there shall be no flesh saved, right? And why is that? Because Esau Edom is what? In control of the world. Therefore, he will basically destroy it, and no one will be left. So anyway, this word Amel, which is going to the wicked, goes into the definition of laborer, worker, right? Which is the working people, the classes, lower class, middle class, right? Even the ones that's not working, everyone is going to be upset, because even the homeless, in some way, shape, or form have benefits, that they're allowed to do. You like when the migrants was let in with with Biden, they was given shelters and things like that, but eventually they pushed them out, and now you have homeless that have shelters and things like that, but with all these different bills that Donald Trump is signing, eventually those things might be cut off, for even the homeless people, right? You have SNAP benefits and things like that they're cutting, Section 8 housing and things like that they're cutting, So go back over here to Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19 and 2, it says, I will make Egyptian fight against Egyptian, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, city against city, province against province. Right? So this is going what? City against city, province against province. That's what's happening. Neighbor against neighbor. We see that now happening in the streets. And it's only going to intensify and get worse, right? To the point where now, you're going to start hearing, because now you're hearing smoke grenades and things like that being shot off, rubber bullets being shot off. But it's going to come to the point where they're shooting off actual weapons, and martial law will take place. And then Esau Edom, right, can roll in more of his agenda and his plan, because his way is order out of chaos, right? So once things intensify, then he can bring in more policies, to bring in martial law, people shut down, and then the next step would be famine, food shortages, and things like that, where people take to the streets, and then he can, control it a little bit more, right? Bring in more policy, where then now you have 15-minute cities. Everyone needs to be tracked, and eat a certain amount of food and things like that. So you can see how gradualism is how he moves towards his agenda. But the scriptures do say in Revelation 12 and 12 that he's going to come down with great wrath, because he has but a short time. And also when we get to Isaiah 19, you're going to see that he no longer has the wisdom that he once had before to move accordingly, right? Revelation 12 and 12, it says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So he's going to move with great speed, to achieve the goals that he has set for himself, right? Because he knows that he have but a short time, right? So if you see, if you run out of time, hey, just imagine sometimes you going somewhere, you run out of time, or you at a job, and your break almost over something, and you on your final strike or your final scroll, you might run a red light, might run past a stop sign, when that could cause problems, if you do those things. So that's how Esau is moving, right? He's moving in a way that's causing him problems, and you can see that all over the world, right? What's happening over there with Israel, the Gaza Strip, the different things that Trump is doing, the tariffs, and all of that, how it's backfiring on them, right? And that's what this is going into here. Isaiah 19:3, it says the Egyptians will lose heart, and I will confuse their plans. See, the Most High is confusing their plans. It says they will plead with their idols for wisdom. So they're crying out, to their idols, trying to get, understanding of what to do next, because they don't got time and they got to move quick, right? Because the nations are bucking up against them, along with the people here in Babylon the Great, and they want to control it. They don't want it to spiral out of control. They want to control it. It says they will plead with their idols for wisdom and call on spirits, mediums, and those who consult the spirits of the dead. Again, to the point, going back to the video on fascism, it says, I will hand Egypt over to a hard, cruel master. A fierce king will rule them, says the Lord Yahweh, the Lord of heaven's armies. Right, so we believe through the spirit that this cruel master and fierce king is Donald Trump. And he's back in the flesh, reincarnated, because this dude was Nero. Right, he has the same characteristics of Nero. One characteristic is that Nero wanted to be loved. If you think about this show called The Boys, right? They got this I forgot. Oh, Homelander, right? He had American Kate and all of that, and he liked to be loved. He wanted the love of the people, right? So that can even be kind of similar to Donald Trump. Donald Trump loves the love of the people, and you can see that by how he says, "Oh, look at the numbers. This was never done before. Look how they love me." He wants to be seen. He goes to the fights, and the sports, and all these different things, and basically, the same characteristics of Nero. So this is that cruel Lord, and they have a, what is it? What is it? A protest supposed to be coming up. So I don't know if it's canceled or if it's still going on. I've seen something recently that said it got canceled at last minute for a reason. But anyway, they had a No Kings protest. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Slakia. The parade. Donald Trump has a parade coming up for his birthday, and at the same time, it's supposed to be a military parade to show, in my humble opinion, the nation's America's strength, because we're living in a time of war. But they said it got canceled. But anyway, they do have a protest coming up regarding No Kings event, because they don't want Trump to rule as a king, right? They don't want a dictatorship, in America. That's the whole point. So going back to fascism, because that's what they're trying to do by rewriting these laws, and even having laws already in place, that they put in place for a time like this, because now they're calling up laws and policies that they've written before and bringing them back to the light. People forgot about them. It's like, what? So anyway, fascism is a far-right political ideology characterized by authoritarianism. Slakia, I can't even. Authoritarian. Let me just get it. Let me get it.
Authoritarianism.
Right, authoritarianism. All right, that's the word. It says ultra nationalism and militarism. It often involves a strong cult of personality around a leader, or a rejection of individual rights and a focus on national unity above all else. Fascism typically opposes democracy, liberalism, and other forms of political pluralism. So let's see what this word is talking about. And then it's basically right here. It says fascism emphasizes central control by the state in a hierarchy social structure. Fuck you with these words. So let's get this pluralism here. And I got it there, because they go into lobby lists and things like that, which we'll get later in the video. Right. It says a condition or system in which two or more states, groups, principal sources of authority coexist. Right? So they don't want that. They want one central control, right? And that's going to go back to what they say as the lobbyists, right? The people that actually run and control America, which is those 1948ers, you know, JWOs over there in the land of Israel. So fascism prioritize the nation above all else. You know, Trump saying America first, but really it's Israel first, right? Because Israel is the one that's backing and running America. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about the JWOs, right? And these JWOs are the banking elites, right, that run the world, and they, you know, live in London, you know. But basically, the JWOs in a whole run America, all right? So anyway, let's get to the video.
This is something that is moving our country directly into fascism.
Republicans wanted to amend the Constitution in a way that would cement oligarchy as our principal form of governance.
Open up our entire Constitution to being rewritten. And nothing would be safe. There are no rules. There's no guidelines. There's no procedures. Nobody's in charge. Once it's been called, it's literally a nightmare. Get rid of the Department of Education. Get rid of the Environment Department. Sell all of our public lands to the highest bidder. It's really quite a nightmare. This is something that is moving our country directly into fascism.
And with us is Vicki Harrison, the Policy Director for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties over at commoncause.org, Blue Sky on Twitter, at commoncause.org or at commoncause. And Vicki, welcome to the program. This article from this first piece here was from ProPublica, but as a background piece. But you guys have been on this topic. I started writing about at least 15 years ago about how Republicans wanted to amend the Constitution through an Article 5 convention and basically take the thing apart and put it back together again in a way that would cement oligarchy as our principal form of governance. Common Cause has just been doing great work on alerting people to it. What is the state of play right now?
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I've actually been working on Article 5 for just about 14 years, so we're about there together. You know, for your listeners and watchers who do not know what an Article 5 convention is, it's a second part of the amendment process in Article 5 of our convention, which, if called a constitutional convention, would open up our entire Constitution to being rewritten. And nothing would be safe. There are no rules. There's no guidelines. There's no procedures. Nobody's in charge. Once it's been called, it's literally a nightmare, and something that, as you just mentioned, Tom, a lot of folks on the right have been pushing for many, many years. And so we are pushing back at Common Cause. There are several of the larger campaigns. So for your listeners, there are lots of campaigns over the years to call a convention. And many of them we ended up doing through the other method, the amendment process, the one we've done 27 times. And others have just languished on the books. But the biggest ones moving right now are the Balanced Budget Amendment, which is at 28 states. We have Convention of States, which includes the Balanced Budget Amendment, plus term limits for Congress, as well as more fiscal restraints over Congress. And then we have the third one, which is and they're at 19 states, Convention of States. And the magic number for them to reach is 34 states to call a convention. The third campaign is a standalone term limits campaign, which unfortunately, Tom, in this day and age, man, doesn't that sound good? Let's get those guys out of Washington, man, they suck. So they've actually gained 3 states this year. They're the only one of the top 3 moving right now that have gained anything this year, other than Convention of States, which already had Texas, but they had a sunset Texas, and unfortunately they got it through this year after many years of trying to remove the sunset clause. So they're still at 19, but term limits has picked up and they're now at 12 states. So those are the ones that are pushing for it. The problem, Tom, is once a convention has been called, there are no rules to keep it on the subject it was being called on. Right. And so the folks pushing for it, you know, I've always asked myself, why do people spend decades and millions of dollars for something? Because they're going to get something out of it. And people thought I had lost my mind years ago when I said, this is something that is moving our country directly into fascism. You know, the folks behind Convention of States, for example, we're talking Mark Meckler of the Tea Party, Tim Dunn, the billionaire in Texas, Rick Santorum, Scott Walker, and they have been spending the last 15 years trying to do this. And they've told us what they're going to do. And we're already seeing that right now. Get rid of the Department of Education, get rid of the Environment Department, sell all of our public lands to the highest bidder. It's really quite a nightmare when you think about it.
Yeah, it very much is. And it's astonishing how disingenuous they are. Oh, let's just try to balance the budget. Let's write that into the Constitution. Oh, let's put term limits in. And both of those things, by the way, would create absolute chaos. A balanced budget amendment could throw the United States into the worst depression ever. Andrew Jackson is the only president who ever balanced the budget or wiped out the deficit, actually, paid our national debt down to zero. And what did it do? It threw us into the longest and deepest depression in American history. It made the Republican Great Depression.
All right, so I want to grab this real quick. This is Psalms 94 in verse 20 in the NLT. It says, can unjust leaders claim that God is on their side? Leaders whose decrees permit injustice? It says they gang up against the righteous and condemn the innocent to death. And I brought it out because these laws and these different policies that they're rolling out now in these last days ultimately is about making America great, but also destroying the tribes, right? We know exactly what's going on. When I say we, I'm talking about, the prophets, men of the Lord, the multitude of men, women, and children listening to the prophets, to the teachers and whatnot, right? We know exactly what's going on. And I also want to grab this other precept. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but the scriptures say, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. So pretty much I want to grab a point that the brothers always bring out is the fact that these other nations, under the rule of the Israelites will have a fair shake, in the kingdom. So they're upset now, because of what's going on, they're bucking up against it. But at the end of the day, it's not about them. I'm talking about like these everyday people that's here in America or whatnot. It's really about Esau against the Israelites. But at the same time, it's about the elect of the Israelites against the elite of the wicked, because the message is coming from the elect of the Israelites, right? The message of the downfall of this current kingdom, right? And the wicked know that, right? So they're trying to fight back with their policies, right? So that's why I brought this out, and I'll grab it again. Psalm 94 and 20. It says, can unjust leaders claim that Yahweh is on their side? Leaders whose decrees permit injustice, right? They gang up against the righteous and condemn the innocent to death, right? And that's their ultimate goal. I want to also grab this Isaiah 10. Isaiah 10 and 1 says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and the right grievousness which they have prescribed. It says to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey and that they might rob the fatherless, right? And that's happening, and going on in a big way with these ICE raids, right? They're, separating families, right, with these different laws that they have prescribed, that one big beautiful bill and all those executive orders, right? Those things that are written down from basically the lobby list, and the lobby lists go into what I said earlier, which is the higher ups, the banking elites that want to control, the people, total control. And he's going to go into it right here. Let's listen to this guy.
Picnic. And then, the term limits thing, we've had several states do this now. And what we find is that it decreases the power of the legislature and increases the power of the lobbyists, because they don't go away. They become the permanent governing, infrastructure, superstructure, so that when new people come in and they need to know where the bathroom is and where the bodies are buried and how to do legislation, the only people who are there who can be the wise elders are the lobbyists. I mean, these are just...
Right. So, the things that they're putting in place now is setting up themselves for the future, for their future agendas, so, and that's, the lobbyists, the people that basically control and run behind the scenes, which are the banking elites, which are so-called Jews, right? The JOOs. It says a lobbyist is a person who attempts to influence legislative or administrative actions on behalf of a specific organization or interest group, right? It says they do this by communicating with lawmakers and government officials to persuade them to vote or act in a particular way, right? And one quote or statement from these, JOOs is that, let me see if I can search it up. I believe it's like, give me control of the nation's money and I don't care who makes the laws. Let me see if I can find that. Okay. All right, let's see if we can. There we go. Quote, give me control over a nation's currency, and I care not who makes its laws, Meyer, Emschiel, Rothschild, right? And the Rothschilds are the banking elites who own the Federal Reserve, right? And they control America. These are the lobbyists, okay? So let's see if they got some more here.
Tom, you are 100% correct. And, Common Cause doesn't have a position on term limits, but as somebody who used to do good government lobbying, I mean, I didn't donate to them. I didn't even buy them a cup of coffee. I was constantly asking them to give up power. And I literally used to say that years ago, like, term limits, man, we are really going to be in charge then. And the balanced budget amendment, I can't tell you how many times, Tom, I talk to people and they're like, well, I balance my checkbook. And I'm like, but you are not a country. Can you imagine the nightmare our country faced around COVID if we had a balanced budget? It is just a nightmare. And companies and governments don't balance their budgets. That's not the way the real world works. And we know that this is just their way of getting into the Constitution and changing anything they want to do.
Yeah, if we had a balanced budget amendment in place, we would not have been able to.
Right. So they got all type of problems. So I'll grab a few more scriptures. I'll get first Matthew 12. Now I got it right here. Matthew 12 and 25. It says, and Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? So you have people on the right hand that wants to push forward towards the agenda, and you have people on the left hand that's like, I don't want to go this direction. This is not the way, I want to continue living on in life pretty much. So that's what they're going through. And I want to grab this Job 18, and we'll end it off there. I believe that's all I wanted to get, through the spirit, So Job 18 and 5, it says, yet the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. And that goes all the way back to what we got earlier in Isaiah 19, the Most High Yahweh confusing their counsel. So the counsel they have now is going to cast them down, right? It's bringing them downhill. And I brought the example out of, for one, the tariffs, that's backfiring. And many other options, even military wise, they're not making the correct moves. It says, the steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down, for he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon a snare. It says, the gin shall take him by the heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. It says, terror shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. That's the point. They have terrorists on every side, And Slovakia, I wanted to grab this because this lobbyist word is coming out a lot more, because, people are concerned about what's going on, like who's actually controlling and running America, right? And so that wicked is being more revealed in these last days. And that being the chief tribe of Amalek, right? Amalek, one of the chiefest of tribes of Esau. You know, let me grab that in what I want. Oh, Second Thessalonians 2. You know, so I'll end it off here because that lobbyist word now is a code word tied to the JOOs, which is a good thing. It's a good thing, you know, because they, you know, they don't want to be talked about, but this, at the same time, people are talking about it. Kind of like when the chariots, I'll say the chariots or the spaceships were flying around in the skies, which are the chariots of the Lord Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, right? The angels are inside those things that you guys seen flying around. And they was having a problem with people actually saying, actually, I forgot what they was having a problem with them saying, but either way, they had a code name for them. You know, people had to make up a code name. They started calling them Oscars and Dior bags and things like that. You know, at one point, you was calling them drones, and they was upset. So now the same thing is happening where Israel, you can't speak about Israel, you know, and it goes deeper because even now people think about Israel and they think about Benjamin and not a Jew, right? That's why he's visiting so frequently, but it goes far and beyond that, right? To the banking elites who own and run the Federal Reserve. So they're owning and running America, you know, and that goes into the wicked, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the chief tribe being Amalek, right? Which are the JOOs. It says 2 Thessalonians 2:7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. Right, so that's exactly what Satan came to do. He came to deceive the nations and set himself up. Right, he came through the rebirth of the Roman Empire. Right, and that's what we have now today. And you know, America is the revised Roman Empire, and the lobbyists are running it, which are the banking elites, the JOOs. And this is the wicked being revealed. So Lord willing, you edify from the lesson. I'll say shalom to those elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.